Sound test, cabinet at 5 p.m. on 25th of September. Sound test, sound test. Okay. Oh, there you go. Well, hey.
There you go.
Cool. You are now live, Chair.
Okay, hello everyone, good evening, welcome councillors, welcome members of the public and anyone who's watching online to today's Cabinet meeting. We're not expecting the fire alarm to go off today. If it does, then please leave everything and follow the exit signs on the Peas Hill side of the building and exit via the Peas Hill door and assemble in St Mary's Passage. Members, when you're not speaking, please make sure that you switch off your microphone so the live stream picks up the correct speaker. Before we get started, I'll just note that we have 2 items that have confidential appendices. Those are items 5 and 8. If members want to discuss the exempt appendices, we'll see when we come to them. We could hold those in exempt session, but I hope that we can hold that discussion in public session. I think that would be preferable, but we will see when we come to it. A couple of announcements. So today I was meeting with Matthew Pennycook, who came to visit Cambridge, which was welcome, showing the government's interest in Cambridge. He came to look at some of our council housing sites and was impressed by the work that we've been doing as a council to build and retrofit some of our council homes. He also talked about government's interest in Cambridge more widely and in removing some of the barriers that we have to housing growth in the city, such as the problems we currently have with wastewater treatment and also with water scarcity. I'd like to also congratulate the City Council's market team. They won the National Association of British Market Authorities 2025 Markets Management Team of the Year Award. So well done to them for their work. Now, in today's meeting, we've got some really positive items in relation to tackling poverty in the city, in relation to our work to tackle the climate crisis, to protect and restore nature in our city, and to invest in our communities. So I look forward to the meeting and to some really good discussion. First of all, I'll just introduce, or let others introduce themselves, the members of the Cabinet and of this meeting. So my name is Councillor Cameron Holloway. I'm the leader of the Council. Councillor Antoinette Nestor.
Good afternoon. My name is Councillor Dr. Antoinette Nestor. I'm Cabinet Member for Culture, Economy and Skills. Thank you.
Councillor Martin Small, Cabinet Member for Nature, Open Space and City Services.
Councillor Simon Smith, I'm the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources.
Hello, I'm Councillor Katie Thornborough, Cabinet Member for Planning and Transport.
Hello, Councillor Rachel Wade, Deputy Leader.
Councillor Jerry Bird, Housing Cabinet Member.
Okay, thank you very much. Apologies for absence. I haven't received any apologies. We have 2 Cabinet members attending online. We have Councillor Rosie Moore is not here at the moment, but she will be here very soon. And otherwise, I think we're okay. Declarations of interest. Sorry, Councillor, would you?
They're going to introduce themselves online.
Yes, sorry, I had missed out the 2 people online for introductions. Councillor Anna Smith, would you like to introduce yourself?
Councillor Anna Smith, Cabinet Member for Communities. Apologies for not being in person. I have a sick family member I need to keep an eye on.
And Councillor Todd Jones.
Yes, thank you. I'm Cabinet Member for Community Safety, Wellbeing and Tackling Homelessness, and many apologies for not being with you in person, but I'm currently recovering from a major operation and sorry I couldn't be with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest to make? Councillor Nestor.
I'm a trustee for the Museum of Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, if there are any further declarations that come up, then those can be made on the specific item if needs be. Now on to the minutes. Item 3, is the minutes. Please can members indicate if they are happy to accept these are a true and accurate record of the meeting from 24th of June 2025 and the meeting from 15th of July 2025. Okay, thank you very much. All right, on to public questions. I'm really glad that we've got some public questions this time. I think we've had the change of governance system and we haven't had any public questions in the previous two meetings, so it's really good to see some members of the public coming along today. Thank you very much. We have four public questions now submitted for this meeting. In fact, they all relate to the Civic Quarter report, which is item 5 on the agenda. Cabinet members will have 2 minutes to respond to questions and a further minute for a further minute for the questioner for a supplementary, and then a further 2 minutes for the response for that. So in addition to those initial 3 public questions we received, we had one further one from Liz Brennan, who will be also asking her question today. I believe she's online. So the first question is from Jocelyn Scott. Councillor Simon Smith will be responding to that. Councillor Simon Smith, would you like to give your response?
Thank you. I will thank you for your question, Jocelyn. I will answer the questions in the order in which you've set them. So the small and large halls. The key objective of the scheme is to make the small and large halls fit for purpose. The works to improve ventilation, acoustics, decoration and ancillary functions, which include the kitchens, the cloakrooms and the bar facilities. The business forecast is to increase revenues from the usage of currently 42 days, and it will increase revenues from £125,000 a year to £400,000 a year by year 5. And this will include between 30 and 64 conference days. Turning to the council chamber, a prime objective of the Guildhall scheme is for it to remain as the seat of local democracy. It's a big factor in our decision to retain the Guildhall. So to realise this objective, the layout and the seating of the existing chamber will need to be changed to improve accessibility and hence inclusion, as well as accommodate a new, larger unitary council. The Performance Assets Strategy and Overview and Scrutiny Committee of the 9th of September sent the following advice to this Cabinet meeting: to retain the chamber in a horseshoe layout with tiered seating, ensuring it remains accessible and central to the city's civic life. Such a proposal is already included in the planning submission documents. The consultants have advised that the goal of maximising community use of the chamber would require a level access floor, and this would enable the council to attract bookings for all 3 spaces, the chamber, the small halls and the large halls. So members will be consulted during the technical design stages on the design options. In any event, the refurbishment works to the chamber to make it fit for purpose will respect the grandeur of this space.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Jocelyn Scott, did you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Councillor Smith. It's a pity that my question couldn't have been read out. Whenever anybody raises the issue of this Guildhall not being appropriate for conferences, the answer is that the universities and the colleges have far better resources. However, this proposal, which one might say is a Philistine proposal in relation to this council chamber, is aimed at destroying the one feature of the Guildhall that is not replicated in the university or in the colleges. So I have this to ask. Has anybody actually consulted, say, with the county? At the county, they do citizenship ceremonies, and they were always held in Shire Hall in a space like this. This could be used for that purpose. I actually had the Scouts up there doing debates in that chamber up there and induction ceremonies. My question is this: would the council consider redeploying all the money that is going to be spent on destruction of this chamber and its real purpose to the Great Hall and the smaller hall so that they can be properly refurbished, which is not a part of the plan? And number two, could a small committee be set up that will actually do proper research into the possible uses of this chamber? Because I can come up with a list, Councillor Swift has come up with a list, and I'm sure that there is the wit and the imagination in the events team and in members of this council to actually see how this space can be used, how this council chamber can be used as a chamber in the configuration in which it is, and it is perfectly accessible in the way that it's built. You can have ramps down from the front, you can get in from the back. And therefore I ask,
Thank you. Thank you for the question. If you could
redeploy
wrap
the
it up, please.
resources
You're
to
well
there
over the minute.
and have a committee that will actually properly look at how this chamber can be used. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn. I think you actually did read out your question just then. The plans include the full refurbishment of the small and the large halls. That is within the budget. So, as I said, there will be briefings after and during the technical design stage on the design options, and you've just set out what one of those options will be. It's going to be considered objectively on the basis of the evidence presented to members. And I know a lot of members do actually prefer to have the tiered seating, permanent seating. But we have to do that with the evidence in front of us, and we will do that in due course.
Thank you very much. Okay, so question 2 is due to be answered by Councillor Rosie Moore. She's not here yet, so we'll hang on and push that one last. If she's not here by then I'll respond to that question. But for now, if we move to question 3, which is from John Preston. Thank you for submitting your question. Councillor Simon Smith, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you, John. Again, I'm going to answer the questions in order. So the first one is about decanting. The council and the design consortium have been working closely with the market traders, the surrounding stakeholders, including the colleges and the contractor, to review the potential locations for the decanting of the market. Now, those discussions have concluded that decanting to King's Parade and Sydney Street would be the preferred option. So it's in this context, the next steps are to work out the operational details. The temporary market will be the subject of a separate planning application for the temporary market. So, 2, construction management. The council's been in discussion with Cambridge Arts Theatre, King's College, Keys, and others to get an understanding of their requirements for planned works and day-to-day operations and the lessons learned from their previous experiences. And as I've just said, the market decant preferred option is strongly influenced by site logistics, so the scaffolding, construction, traffic and site compound are all factored into the proposed solutions. West side of the market. The designs for the west side of the market look to both extend the planting established along Pease Hill, but also to act as an extension to Great St Mary's Churchyard. And the proposed planting and seating would provide biodiversity and enhance the east end of the Great St Mary's, whilst retaining the ability to view the Boer War Memorial. And the design of this element is restrained so as not to detract from Great St Mary's or the market. Misleading plans. There's no intention to mislead. These diagrams are specifically related to ground floors and activities that occur in the area at different times of the day. And we are aware of the other uses in the area, and the noise impact statement, which will be submitted as part of the planning application, provides evidence that the residential uses will not be impacted by the proposed development. Cycle parking. Surveys show that current use of the railings at Great St Mary's Church accommodates on average 14 bikes. It also shows that the bikes are often stored there for long periods of time, including abandoned bikes. The council and design team have had very useful conversations with CamCycle about proposals and potential upgrades to cycle parking outside the red line boundaries of the proposed planning applications. And lastly, facilities for events. The proposals have been developed in conjunction with specialist commercial advisors, Blue Horizon, Carter Jonas, Place Partnership. The business plan has been developed, stress tested and reviewed by the Section 151 officer, who's the Chief Finance Officer, and this was presented to the Scrutiny Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. John Preston, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chair. I must admit I did struggle to hear much of what was said there. I think the three things I would raise immediately are the issue of the decant and needing to have a clear idea of exactly what demountable stores are going to be used in the decant as part of a planning application rather than after, so we know exactly what is proposed and where and to what extent it will cater for the traders' needs. The next issue is, I raised at the end, is the issue of cycle parking. The information is inadequate in what has been supplied already. I think there is a real problem with the draft DNA statement for the public realm because there is so much in it that has not been fully worked through. So I look forward to seeing that. And lastly, I think it's absolutely essential that you show in full the surrounding uses, particularly if the council has ambitions to actually get what I think we all want, which is pavement cafes rather than takeaways, and really a vibrant city centre. You need to think about the building's use around, not just the space.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith, would you like to respond?
Thank you. In terms of my answer to the question of decanting, did conclude by saying that having established a preferred solution, the next steps are to address the operational details. And in respect to cycle parking, in that answer, I referred to the briefing paper that CamCycle submitted and the subsequent discussions and continuing discussions that the officers are having with CamCycle and Living Streets with the view to addressing the cycle parking question. And in respect to the surrounding uses, planning application has a red line which basically defines the boundary of the development. There's no requirement to address the question of the surrounding uses outside of the red line. That's just how the planning system works. But some of the proposals, including the TROs, of course, do impact on the surrounding area, and that's what we're having the discussions with the various owners and stakeholders about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So we'll do question 4 and then we'll come back to question 2. So question 4 has come in from Liz Brennan. It's regarding the Unison office in the Guildhall. Is Liz Brennan here online or not? No. No. Okay, anyway, I will provide a response. I'm grateful, Liz, for you raising this concern. Thank you. And we are absolutely committed to supporting our staff in Cambridge City Council and to supporting our unions. And we're very glad and appreciative for the work that Liz and others do in that regard. So far, in terms of the rooms in the Guildhall and the designs that have come forward so far, we haven't been allocating rooms specifically other than a couple of exceptions such as the Mayor's Parlour. So the planning designs don't restrict you to say this room absolutely has to be this or this one has to be this. Now, there are indicative drawings that we have put out, and I recognise that that may cause some concern for people if they see that their room may move or be changed and things like that. So absolutely appreciate that, and I'm sorry for any concerns that have been caused. However, we are committed to ongoing dialogue as part of the technical design stage and working with our staff and with our unions going forward. So thank you to Liz for raising that concern, and we'll be in touch. Okay, so on to question 2. There was a question from Zoe Harding regarding the market. Is Zoe Harding available, or is someone here to speak on her behalf, perhaps? Okay, thank you very much. So, first of all, Councillor Moore, if you could provide a response to the initial question.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Henry, for bringing the question, and for Zoe for the question, and for both of all of your input into the project and your ongoing engagement. So we really do value, it's a bit hard because you're right behind me. I don't know which way to face, seems a bit rude. Oh, and apologies for being late. So, and thank you for changing the numbering, ordering, thank you. So we really do value your and all of the other traders' feedback, which is highlighted by the way in which the designs have evolved over time in response to this feedback. So initially the project was to be fully demountable stalls, but due to the multiple requests from traders, the plan now is to have just under half as permanent stalls. Each of these new permanent stalls was then going to be for a single trader, but now following further feedback, the team have worked on the designs and they've been updated so that traders can share a permanent stall, each one trading on different days, and the design of the stalls has been slightly updated so there would be built-in storage for the traders that on the days they're not trading. So I and the team absolutely understand that the traders all really like, not necessarily, as we discussed last week, the design of the current stalls, but the sturdiness and the fact that they're up and in the same place at all times. However, one aspect of this project is to free up the market square for when the market's not on, to create a civic space in the heart of the city, which obviously will be mainly in the evenings, but will also mean that some of the square is open when the market is condensed on quieter days. As Zoe said in her question,
a change of mindset. You've got to be buying in bulk. You need a freezer. I ate like a king, and you just need
I don't think that's in relation to the question.
Things differently. Ordering a veg box every week. Absolutely crucial. Making your own bread, salt, flour, from.
I think it's Katie Preston. So as Zoe said in the question, shopping habits have changed drastically over the past few years, and we need to. Maybe there's someone else. Thanks, James. We need to really assume that they're likely to keep changing. So for the future of the market and for the Civic Quarter project, it's really important to create a more flexible space.
Sorry, Katie Preston, could you please mute your microphone?
With regards to the logistics of putting the stalls up and down and where the traders will trade, as the market expands and contracts across the week, we do still have a lot of details yet to confirm, including, obviously, crucially, the design of the demountable stall. However, markets all around the world are able to function using demountable stalls, including some of those that traders have highlighted as excellent examples of markets, which the team are investigating, again, following trader feedback. So the team are working on running more trials of the demountable stalls, the ones that we tried before, but having them attached to the ground, which is what they would be in the final project. But also traders have come back and suggested other stalls that are used in other markets. With regards to the comments around footfall, what would happen to rents if footfall doesn't increase, just to be clear, that is in response to traders' queries, what happens if footfall doesn't increase. Obviously, it's good to have a rough idea. However, the whole aim of the project and the team are working towards increasing footfall. And that's a vital part of that whole project, not just for the market, but for the Guildhall and the Corn Exchange. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Okay, well, on the issue of the kiosks, the 44 kiosks, they're only for people who are willing to trade a minimum of 5 days. So then there's serious concern on that the market will be shuttered or appear shuttered to a large extent, particularly on Mondays and Tuesdays, because it is quite a large block, these 44 kiosks. I would contest it's an overdevelopment of that area. It's quite a large block. And there is a danger that at certain times of day and night that there will be, the market from that end particularly will appear shuttered. So I would contest or ask the question, is this really the best way to support a thriving seven-day a week market? On the rents, I would say, I would just ask that there's a lot more work done on that. I think this sort of baseline of a premium pitch price is problematic. I'd ask that you look at that really carefully and potentially look at having some cheaper options, particularly to encourage business. On the gazebos, I think there's so much work to be done. I'd really ask you to look at that. The huge cost in buying, storing, cleaning, repairing, and more importantly, erecting and removing them. So yeah, the £150,000. The market traders have been talking about this cost for a long time, but it's a serious figure, £150,000. That's one quote we've had. I think we probably need some more and to look at scaling down that ongoing operation that's going to cost the market £150,000 a year ongoing in perpetuity. So yeah, I would ask that you really look at that plan on the demountables, putting them up and down, perhaps reducing that number and looking at actually fixed stalls in situ that provide the traders with what they need. Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's most of my points. Thank
you. Councillor Moore, would you like to respond?
Thank you. So yes, we don't want the permanent stalls, the kiosks to be shut, which is why the team are having the one-to-ones with traders, and for those to be let to traders who want, that's a minimum 5 days. But it's also why, as we said, following feedback, traders will be able to share so that those kiosks will be used ideally 7 days a week. With regards to the night, it will be closed off to prevent antisocial behaviour, that area. Is it the best way? Well, it's in response to public engagement and the petitions and the requests from traders to have permanent stalls, and that's how we've come to this design that we've got. It's following all of the engagement, as I say, with traders, but also with the public. With regards to rent and cheaper options, the markets team have cheaper options on quieter days. We've been doing that for years, and that is in the new business plan. The business plan itself is evolving. It's just a new iteration is coming out, and following, there's still work to be done on the market when it's in its decanted location, but also, as Zoe said in the question, it will evolve as the project is finished and the market is then in its new state, and no doubt rents will change accordingly over time, just with inflation. The gazebos, yes, there's still a lot of work to do on the demountable stalls. Just to be clear, we don't need planning permission for the demountable stalls, so that's why it's okay to go forward with this decision today without being absolutely clear on which design of demountable stall we'll be using. And there will be costs on employing staff to put them up and put them down, but that was also following trader feedback that they definitely didn't want to do that aspect. But I have to say that cost will also go alongside, and ideally it might be some of the same people, but that's yet to be decided. Increased security and increased cleaning in the new market square, or in the new market. Security for the traders and in response to the antisocial behaviour that we see in the day and in the evenings. And obviously we want to keep it all nice and clean, spick and span. I think that's answered everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Moore. Thank you everyone for your public questions. Okay, we will now move on to item 5, which is the Civic Quarter update. This item contains some confidential information, so if at any point members do wish to discuss any of that confidential information, we will need to move into exempt session, but I hope that we'll be able to continue with a public meeting as far as possible. So this is a hugely significant project for us as a council. A lot of work has gone into this over many years. We have 3 assets, the market, the Guildhall and the Corn Exchange, which are in many ways showing their age. We want to bring them up to date. We want to put in the investment that's required to make them something that we're really proud of in our city centre. So thank you, Councillor Simon Smith. You're going to introduce this and tell us all about it.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is going to be the most significant investment in the public realm in the city centre. Well, someone said it's for 50 years, but I think it's probably a lot longer than that. I think the sets in the market were put in the 1850s. I think John Preston for that information. So what is it going to look like when it's refurbished? So we'll have, as Rosie Moore has just been explaining, a thriving 7-day-a-week market that's going to be sustainable and will hopefully retain all existing businesses and attract new ones. There will be a transformation of the Corn Exchange to widen its appeal, and it'll address some of the fundamental problems with the Corn Exchange. It needs a new roof. It needs much improved ventilation, it needs decarbonisation, it needs better seating, it needs better access, and it needs better food and drinks facilities. And then to open up the Guildhall to the community, as we've discussed in the public questions, refurbishing the small and large halls to make them more used by the community and for commercial and for community events, and also to retain this very chamber as the seat of local democracy. It's a historic location, and this is basically the sanctum sanctorum of local democracy in this city, an 800-year-old city, and this is how it should remain. So and going with that, we are hoping that this will become the new headquarters for the proposed new unitary council, and it is large enough to accommodate a considerable number of staff and the meeting rooms that we need for the political management of the council. And last but not least, a dramatic improvement to the public realm in the surrounding area, which has been neglected for a long time. And to me, it's an embarrassment that our city centre is so run down, and it needs a complete facelift. And we want to make it safer for pedestrians and to provide planting and shade and basically bring it up to the equivalent of what we see elsewhere in the country and in mainland Europe. So we want to make the Civic Quarter, the city centre, more inclusive and accessible, better public spaces where people can meet and visit the market and basically enjoy cultural events, while also enhancing these heritage buildings that are listed. We need to reduce water consumption, remove the use of fossil fuels, and it's our responsibility. This council is the custodian of these buildings, and we need to invest in their upkeep and do so in a way that generates income to cover the costs of the debt and reduce operating costs and contribute to, well, making sure that we remain as a financially sustainable council and our successor council as well. And we've got substantial business cases to support the feasibility, viability and deliverability of all of these schemes. And we now are at the point where this evening we've been asked to invited to make a decision to put forward the funds required to take us to the technical design stage, and in parallel with the submission of the planning applications, for which there will be further public consultation. This will give us a further 12 months in which to continue our discussions with the contractors, other potential funders, and crucially, very important stakeholders, the market traders. We want to get to an end point where there's a great deal of consensus on what we're doing and how they're going to be supported through the difficult period when they're decanted and then coming back onto the market in the new configuration. And I just want to give a note of appreciation to my colleague Rosie Moore, who has worked tirelessly for years to see this project realised. And I think tonight we'll be taking one step forward and making a significant commitment to doing that. And I will be working with the Chief Finance Officer to ensure that we have the most economic funding in place when we get to making a decision on the contract price around this time next year. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. I note there is feedback available from the Performance Assets and Strategy Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and that is very helpful feedback. Thank you. So I would like at this stage to ask the chair of that committee whether you wish to sum up the feedback for us. This isn't your only chance to speak, so you can ask questions later, but I just wanted to get your summary of that feedback and then we can perhaps respond to some of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Councillor Katie Porrer and I chair the Performance Assets and Strategy Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and we looked at this a couple of weeks ago without a recommendation, but our recommendation was option 4, so we're grateful that that has been taken forward. I think the minutes, page 50 to 17, sum up most of the things, but just as an overview, we raised some concerns about obviously engaging with CamCycle and Living Streets and making sure bus routes aren't interrupted or that they're re-provided, which I know is going forward. I've been copied into some emails. There was definitely strong support for a circular chamber. You know, this but obviously the fact that there's some modernisation needed to fit in potentially more councillors, and there was strong support, majority support for the Guildhall as that civic heart, and that even with LGR, local government reform, coming forward, it was important that we didn't sort of delay everything and end up with nothing coming forward. There were some comments about better showcasing Cambridge's history, so linking up with the museum, trying to make sure the area near the entrance would also do that. We also asked for confirmation about the fact that the borrowing we're taking on wouldn't directly affect service provision, which was confirmed that it wouldn't by the Chief Financial Officer. And I think a view was that this is seen as an investment rather than a cost, because obviously the do-nothing cost is still 60 million, but the potentially higher cost would generate more income for the council in the long run, which is all in the public papers. As I said, we, as a scrutiny committee, everyone felt option 4 was the best option. Majority were in favour of that going forward, particularly because by obtaining planning, if that's agreed, it would unlock potential grant funding, which is obviously really important, as Councillor Smith says, when the council looks at what the ultimate level of borrowing would be, and we need that REBA stage 3 onwards to be done to do that. So we, as the scrutiny committee, majority support for moving this forward via option 4. So I hope that's helpful, Chair.
That is very helpful, thank you. And it was really good to attend that meeting and hear the debate, as well as to hear you drawing out some of the challenges and trade-offs that may be involved in these decisions. So thank you. Just to respond specifically to a couple of your points. So a further meeting has already been held with CampCycle, and a meeting's being arranged with Living Streets as well ahead of planning submission. We note the point about the TROs and bus service provision and making sure that there's adequate wayfinding, and that's going to be included in the TRO. On the point about demountable stalls, we've already heard some information about that, so hopefully that's reassuring, but there will be further work being done in that area. Again, the semicircular chamber, Councillor Smith has already referred to, and I think that is widely thought to be an important point for the chamber's historic value to be retained in that sense. The ventilation and accessibility that was mentioned, which I think is all really important for the Guildhall specifically, is included in the planning submission. There was reference to a potential museum in the Guildhall, and the project team are looking to explore options for museums, or also for opportunities for our heritage items such as the seals to be displayed for the public to enjoy. We've got a few things over there on display already in the chamber, but not many people come into the chamber. But we have also been doing some quite exciting work for those of you who are into your history recently. So we've commissioned some experts to conserve and restore the City Council's 35 royal charters, and that work has just begun on the 1207 Second Charter of King John and the 1548 letters exemplificatory of Edward VI. So we look forward to that work continuing. Thank you very much for that feedback. I'll now open it up to further questions and comments. Are there any? Councillor Thornborough.
Yes. I think we must. It's really important that we're just at the moment we're commissioning the work to develop the planning application, and then after that to the technical design. And there's a lot of work still to be done. In preparing the planning application, the significance of this listed building in this hall, and it's not just the hall that is significant, it's the entrance, and there's just so much presence in certain parts of the building, in the committee rooms and the mayor's parlour. So the significance of these spaces has to be retained. And I think the architects, I think, are showing some, it's been really nice working with them so far, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to actually identify the significance in these spaces and make sure that's retained. Because one of the most important things about listed buildings is that they continue their use of what they originally built for. So this is the prime civic building in Cambridge, and and the wider area, and doing this work to ensure that the use continues for another 50, 100 years is just a really great investment. So I think the coming into this space as a new councillor 6 or 7 years ago, it was really thrilling, and I'm sure that we'll continue to have that presence when you come in after this work's been done, and the detailing of how that's achieved. It will be something that I will be very interested in, and I know the listed buildings officers will, but I really hope the furniture can be more comfortable.
Thank you, Councillor Thornborough. We can probably all agree with that, but it's really good to have your architectural expertise in this area, and we don't want to end up like Shire Hall. That's been sad to see. We want to retain this building. We've made that decision. We want it to be something that we open up to the public and we retain as a really important civic space at the heart of the city. Councillor Nesta.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to emphasise the future-proofing of the Guildhall. And if we don't do this now, the question is, when will it get done? But the point I wanted to make is, ask Councillor Smith, if for the benefit of the public and people that do not understand like how the whole planning system works and what it means, if you would be able to understand, sort of to explain in simple terms, what happens, for example, like, first you put the planning application, and Councillor Porter mentioned sort of, planning application. If you could just explain in broad terms what the process is, so anybody who's actually listening to this understand that, like, why do you need sort of like, why is option 4 the optimal one, for example. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Okay, thank you for your question. So the planning process for a scheme of this scale starts off with an agreement. It's called a planning performance agreement between the applicant, which happens to be the City Council, and the Joint Planning Service. And there may be 3 or 4 pre-application meetings to go through different elements, aspects of the development proposal. And in this case, clearly, it's all the heritage implications that have been most important consideration, and how, as Councillor Thornborough was explaining, you retain the original use, not in the Corn Exchange, obviously, but in the Guildhall, so that the original purpose of the building is retained, but at the same time, it becomes fit for modern purposes, and then hence financially sustainable. So these are the dilemmas that need to be resolved between the professional team and the planning officers. There is a whole body of evidence that needs to be submitted to support a planning application. Literally dozens of separate documents that look at all aspects of development and their impacts on the environment and transport and environment and so on. And then what the officers do is they review the evidence, they check whether it's policy compliant, they get comments from all the statutory consultees, and they carry out a public consultation. And then they bring all of that evidence together and write a report, and then make a recommendation on the basis of what's called the planning balance. No application is perfect and performs against every single policy consideration, but generally there's a planning balance where the benefits outweigh the disbenefits, and they make the recommendation on that basis, and they will then attach conditions to the planning application. Some will be pre-commencement, and which will need some reserved matters, so that these need to be submitted before construction starts. And then there will be a Section 106 agreement with planning obligations attached to it. That's as brief as I can make it.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So I'm aware that our Mayor is here and has an event to go to very soon. So I just wanted to give Councillor Dinah Pounds the opportunity to ask a question, as well as Councillor Swift, because they're similar questions. So if you could both ask those, and then we'll have a response.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I'm Councillor Dinah
and I'm the Mayor of Cambridge. So I just wanted to add my voice to some of the things that have been said and to ask for some reassurance, please, although I'm very pleased to hear what Councillor Thornborough and Councillor Smith have got to say about the project. And I really fully support this project. I think it's really important that Cambridge has a very vibrant and well-functioning city centre. And as Councillor Thornborough said, this room has gravitas. When, in fact, before I became a councillor, we used to come to events in the small and large hall, and we would walk through here to get to the halls. And it has an aura, it has a real sense of seriousness and what it's, and authority, actually. It's the hub of Cambridge, it's the anchor of the city, and it's very important that we retain that. And its primary function is for the governance of the city, and which is a very important, historic and unique city with a worldwide reputation. And so really my question is, or what I'd like to know is, how are we going to preserve this function in a renovated chamber? And that, I think, is something that is very important. I hope we can go forward and have more conversations about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I gather Councillor Swift's question is very similar, so if we could have that and then get a response.
Just to reiterate what Councillor Thornborough was saying and Councillor Pounds, this is the absolute heart of our civic society, this room here. Its primary function, please, can it remain as a formal, permanent debating chamber rather than a multifunctional type of space. There's the large and small hall that will be very good for that. I totally agree with what Councillor Pounds has said. Goes all the way back to the beginning of the 13th century and beyond that to the Odeon in ancient Greece and Rome, this semicircular chamber shape. We need to retain that, and we need to retain the dignity and the formality of this space in any part of the future design. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swift. Councillor Smith, would you like to provide a response?
Yes, this room and the whole process of realising that you're coming into somewhere that's important starts outside the building, and it continues as you come through the main entrance and you come up the marble steps and you walk through these gigantic doors into this vast space. And as I said, it's the sanctum sanctorum of civic life in this city. And people might not realise that when we have a meeting, we have the mace, and the mace represents the fact that we have the authority of the Crown to make decisions on behalf of the government in this chamber. So it adds dignity and formality and seriousness to what we do in this chamber. And I think other councils have made a serious mistake when they've left their chambers behind and gone into office buildings on business parks, because it speaks to me of small government, that public services aren't important, aren't crucial to the quality of our life, our health, our education, our well-being. But we in this chamber, we believe that. And that's why people are saying, as Dinah and Richard are saying, and Jocelyn before them, are saying that we need to retain the integrity of this space. But we'll continue to have this discussion and debate, and we'll come to a balanced decision. But I do sense there's a very strong argument that's just been made now.
Councillor Smith, I'd like to come to Councillor Tim Bick, if you're ready. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I was just getting carried away there with the euphoria. I speak as someone who has been quite a supporter of most of the outcomes that we're trying to achieve from this Civic Quarter project. But I think we have to recognise that one of the things that strikes many people in the public from what they've heard so far is this enormous cost of £92 million as it's currently forecast. I see on page 12 of the report, the 3 points at the bottom, that there is some revenue benefit, some income and cost benefit going to arise from this. But then I believe it's also the case that that does not include the cost of the capital that would be invested. And that puts a different complexion on it, possibly. So I wanted to ask Councillor Smith, if I may, how does this project contribute to the transformation budget savings targets that it's been associated with up until relatively recently? And I think that as well as talking about the beneficial outcomes, which I will readily sort of support and favour in the way I think about this, I do think that we need to have an answer to this question as well. So how does this project contribute to the budget savings that we know this council has to make?
Thank you, Councillor Bick. We know that there are potentially significant costs involved in this, which is why we're taking a gradual step-by-step process. We think that that's the right thing to do. We think that investing in all three of these assets is absolutely the right thing to do, and we are completely committed to that. But we are also committed to being stewards of our public money and making sure that we manage money in a really sensible and careful way. As you referred to, the Guildhall at the moment costs us 1.2 million every year net to run. So if we can, in the longer term, turn that around and actually bring in some income, that's really positive, and that's money we can spend elsewhere in the city. Similarly, with the Corn Exchange, we could make more money from it, spend that money elsewhere in the city. But Councillor Smith, if you would like to come in with the more detail on the answer.
I might even need to defer to the Section 151 officer. So I think the first thing I'd say is that I welcome the cross-party support that we've had through this process. It's very welcome because a project of this scale inevitably as well, you know, over the years we're just going to pass through numerous administrations. And so having that shared commitment and challenge is extremely welcome, and Councillor Pora did a sterling job at the scrutiny committee and reporting back here. So thank you for that. We've recently had a discussion about how the budget is split and presented around this scheme, because there are two elements of it which are ones where you can make investment cases, and that is in relation to the Guildhall and to the Corn Exchange. So critically, what needs to happen is the reduction in the operating costs and the increased revenue will fund the long-term borrowing costs. There is a start-up phase, so in the initial years it is loss-making, and you know, a lot of enterprises are initially loss-making as you build up the revenues, and we are making provision for that in the financing of the project. And in the long term, there is a kind of like a net added value. So that's those two elements, and clearly what we need to do is we need to bear down on that 92 million. There's a lot of processes to go through just yet, and one of them is going to be value engineering. We're looking for external funding as well. And we've also, we'll come back later on in the agenda, Councillor Bick, to the substantial underspend on Park Street, which releases some very cheap borrowing that we have, and that can also too contribute to reducing the ongoing revenue costs of the financing. So that's a very helpful contribution to the funding arrangements. And the other part of the scheme relates to, one, the market, and two, the public realm. And this is the money that we as a council spend in placemaking to make the city more livable, to its public infrastructure, and that's what the public sector exists to do. We're not a PLC that has to make a an internal rate of return on everything we do and a profit and pay dividends and so on. If you like, in the sense, the public value, the dividends come from immeasurable benefits, just the pleasure of actually coming into a nice place to shop, to visit, to go to a cultural event. And that is a different kind of investment case. And I believe that everybody who's been involved in this supports that concept. So that's the answer to your question. But also, because we worked so hard and we invested money in the transformation process over a number of years, and we went through a process of decision-making around budget setting for this financial year, we are now well on track to balance the budget over the 5-year period, and I don't foresee that we're going to have to make any or more difficult budget decisions around the general fund over the next 2 financial years. We'll come on to that, and I'll evidence that later on in this meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Bick, did you have a further question?
No, thank you. I'm fine with that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smart, did you put your hand up quite a while back?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So, not so much a question, there might be one in there. I suppose I just felt the urge to say something, Chair, on the basis of views about this building, because some views have been expressed about keeping it as it is, pretty much. And I understand those views and where they're coming from. I can go along with that. I'm more of a modernist at heart, really. But this is an older building, and that's right and proper that we should work with what we've got. It's a neo-Georgian building. Neo-Georgian is not either my favourite form of architecture, but it is what it is. But what I would say is that we need to have a functional building, functional in today's terms, 2025, not 1939 when the building was built. You know, it's quite easy looking around the room as I'm in it now. It's not particularly well lit by the light fittings that we have. Some of them are warm white, some of them are cool white. They're probably not incandescent, but nevertheless, it doesn't light the room as well as it could do. The chairs are falling apart that we're sitting on now. The carpet looks a bit shoddy, the curtains too. They've been there a long time. It's single glazed. The walls look stained. So it's a room that could do with a serious refresh for a start. I mean, you know, I'm happy with it, but there you go. But it's not accessible if you're a wheelchair user or a person with limited mobility. Over the years since 2014 that I've been a councillor, I've seen people fall over the stairs on various occasions. Even people who are quite well able-bodied have made mistakes and missed a step. So it has its failings for sure. And I think that we can work with those views of people that want to keep it as it is, but also make a Guildhall that's fit for purpose at this time and going forward. So from 2025 onwards, not looking back to 1939 when it was first built, when it was probably lovely, but not quite so much now, Chair. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smart. I wanted to go to the scrutiny chairs. Did you have any further points or questions?
No, I think we've covered everything. I mean, the demountable stores was the only thing I missed from my report, but obviously Councillor Smith has addressed that because that isn't depending on planning, and that was something we were keen to make sure was continued to be investigated with the traders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Naomi Bennett.
Thank you for letting me speak. I understand it's at the chair's discretion, so I'm going to make this as brief as I can. I'm sorry, I've just been told by Richard Swift that whenever I say that, I do the full 3 minutes. So I apologise once again. I was pleased to hear Cameron talk about financial stewardship, because that's really one of the things I want to talk to you about. I think we can all agree that Liz Watts has been an exemplary chief executive at South Cambridgeshire District Council, introducing the 4-day week. Councillor Bridget Smith has just won the Local Government Association Award for Council Leader of the Year. All of this has been done trading out of a council office on a business park. It's not about the buildings, it's about the people and the values in an organisation. And one of those values has to be financial stewardship. I understand that you all have warm and fuzzy feelings about the Guildhall. It's where you work, it's where you've committed a lot of your time. I don't think the average resident in Cambridge shares those feelings. People are really feeling the pinch and are anxious about the financial burden. Now, I noticed that the plans show a break-even after 19 years. However, in most business decisions, break-even over 19 years would not be sufficient basis for investment. There are ways for dealing with long-term projects and analysing their security, but I cannot see that sort of the Carter-Jonas report, on which this is based, has actually done any of those. I don't think that this report is a sound basis for investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bennett. This is not purely a financial investment decision. We are taking it seriously in terms of the finances, but this is so much more. It's about investing in our communities, in our civic pride, in our city centre, in spaces for everyone in the centre of Cambridge. And it's also about achieving our net zero goals. We have a target to be net zero as a council by 2030. Key parts of that are this building, the Guildhall and the Corn Exchange. They're difficult to get to a much more energy efficient state than they're in currently, but it is something we're planning to do. It's something that costs quite a bit of money, but we are absolutely committed to that, and I would hope the Green Party would support that aim as well. We alternatively could sell the Guildhall, but we've decided not to do that. We don't want to end up with a situation like Shire Hall where it sits empty at the heart of our city. We want to make the best of it, and we want to modernise it so that it's really useful as a chamber and as a space for democracy, but also a space that's welcoming and open to the public. So we think that's absolutely the right thing to do. But thank you very much for your point. Any further? Councillor Thornborough.
Yeah, just a couple of points. I'm very aware that we're going to improve accessibility as well. So I'm keen that as an example of the cobbles, which are now listed, are prepared so that we can see how they're going to work, and I hope that can be done over the next few months. The other thing is I'm really excited about the improvements to the Corn Exchange, because arts and music are so important to the city, and it's really great to see the proposals there to future-proof that building. But one thing you mentioned, Councillor Smith, was the Park Street project and how that came in under budget. Now, I am astonished in today's atmosphere of escalating building costs. It is just astonishing that Park Street has come in under budget and on time, and I think it just shows the amount of work preparing to do that and actually carrying it out. And I think that should give us confidence with the same team preparing a big project like the Civic Quarter project. The Park Street was, I think, one of the biggest loans we took out at a very good rate, and it's going to be paid back quickly, and we'll have such a really good asset. I think that investing in this project, in these projects, is the right thing to do. But it's also the right thing to do to get the planning and the detailed drawings, and then the contractor will come back with much clearer information about the costs for retrofittings and future-proofing these three important parts of Cambridge, and then the additional cost to add in the value to make it as flexible as possible. But I think all of those things will give the councillors this time next year being in a very good position to make the final decisions about how to proceed with the right information and the right detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thornborough. Councillor Wade.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to disagree with my colleague, Naomi Bennett, I think she's gone actually, but I think it is about the buildings. And if you talk to the residents who miss Shire Hall, it's definitely about the buildings, because having to take 2 buses to get to speak to anybody at county if you're not online has had an impact, and that building has been empty for some time. This building deserves to be kept. It's here, and part of its function will be as a customer services hub for our local residents. It's worth investing in, and it's worth retaining for that alone. It's convenient for our residents, it's in the middle of town, so it is about the building. And also, as Councillor Porro has already pointed out, it's a cost of 60 million to do nothing. In my layman's terms, the investment in this building is worth every penny, not least because it's going to be retrofitted, which speaks to our vision for Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
Thank you. I obviously spoke earlier in answering the question, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about, well, I wanted to talk about the net zero, but that's really great. You've covered that. Thank you. But that's very important to this council, and it will be, we're coming up later to talk about our next climate change strategy, and it is an important part of that, and will fit very well with our plans for a city centre district heat network. Part of our role as a council is to show leadership, and we will be doing just that by cutting our own carbon emissions. With regards to the market, as was highlighted, there are still questions to be answered around the design, and there's been a lot of debate around the design of the stalls. However, the need for the market, the sort of basic infrastructure to be updated is, for me, it's unquestionable. The floor needs relaying. We need new electrics, new toilets and services for the traders, new drains, and it will be a vital aspect of the city centre. We're not just, as was perhaps suggested, doing something on a building that's just we're going to sit in. The civic quarter as a whole, the Market Square, the public realm, the Corn Exchange, the changes to Parsons Court and the Guildhall will totally transform the city centre, benefiting all of the local businesses and organisations that are around us, all of residents that come into the city centre, and of course tourists and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. The investment in the market is vital, and I think for me, safety has been touched on, but it really can't be overemphasised. The fact that we've had stabbings, sexual assaults, some really dangerous and violent activity taking place in our Market Square, right at the heart of the city. The other night I was at the Street Pastors AGM, and they spend a lot of their time there when they're out on their patrols, and they all agreed that it's a space that urgently needs to be made much safer for people at night, but it also needs to be made into a more welcoming space that we can all be proud of during the day. Next on my list is Councillor Joe Bird.
Thanks, Chair. I'm really going to be talking about the accessibility. For a start, in here, I've always had to have a table, so I've never been able to really sit with my colleagues properly. So that'll be nice to have something sorted for that. Then we go along to the Corn Exchange, we go to a show, there's only a certain area disabled people are allowed to sit, and if people stand up, disabled people then can't see what's going on. So it's not very pleasant to go there for concerts and stuff. And then we've got the Market Square. Well, actually, I never go on the Market Square unless I'm in my electric wheelchair, because I'll tip out with this one. Some of my colleagues have been out on the Market Square in wheelchairs. We've had people fall out of them, all sorts, get stuck in holes in the market square. So it's not friendly. It's not friendly at all. So if we can make this city more accessible for all disabilities, that would be great. And just to be able to walk, I don't want the cobbles gone, they've got to stay, but just to be able to walk on the smooth area, that would be absolutely fantastic, and for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bird. Councillor Nesta?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add as well that when we speak about a civic quarter. It's not just the Guildhall, it's not just Market Square, it's not just the Corn Exchange. It's where we all come together, and having seeing that vision past perhaps the small details that, yes, they will get sorted, but just having a wider vision of what it means, I think that's very, very important. And also adds to our sort of like mental and well-being, not just as resident, but also as a city. And culture, of course, with my portfolio, out of the ordinary, just having something right outside the Guildhall. If we could basically replicate that in a space where everybody can access, as Councillor Bird said, I think that is a vision to keep in mind, not just for like a few years, but in the longer term when, for example, my children are my age. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nesta. Any further questions? Thank you very much. Would Councillor Smith like to sum up this item before we move to the recommendation?
Chair, am I not able to speak?
You're not, sorry, because you didn't request to speak beforehand.
Is that a requirement for this meeting, Chair?
Yes, it's at the chair's discretion whether you get to speak or not, unless you're
Well, I'm asking you
either
to
a
use
member.
your discretion.
Yes, and I'm afraid you're not allowed to speak because you didn't do me the courtesy of asking in advance.
That wasn't a lack of courtesy, Chair. That was my innocence.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on with the meeting.
So you're not going to allow me to speak?
No, sorry.
Oh. Do you think that's...
I know I'm not going to allow you to speak, so thank you very much. Next time, you'll have to ask in advance, I'm afraid, like everyone else.
That's bullying, Chair.
That is not bullying.
That's bullying by the ruling party. That is definitely bullying. You can laugh. but
It's
that's
not bullying. It's the rules. Thank you. Councillor Smith, if you'd like to sum up.
Yes, thank you. But before I start on that, I'd just like to take issue with Councillor Bennett's very ill-founded remarks. She gave us a lecture on how to invest money. She did it on the basis of a neoliberal concept that everything has to be for profit. And as we've made the case in this debate, that is not the case. Some things are just more valuable than money. And I'd also hold her to account for the financial incompetence of her group. And it's a real concern to me that should this political party ever get power of a council in Cambridge and in this city or anywhere else in Cambridgeshire, they just share incompetence. Because when we considered the outturn report for the General Fund, we were asked to vote on carrying forward the capital programme. And they voted against carrying forward that programme. That would have had, they had been empowered to have done that. That would have had very serious consequences for this council and its reputation. It would have meant that we wouldn't have been able to pay contractors bills for works completed. It would have meant that we couldn't have proceeded with environmental schemes, investment in retrofit, investment in biodiversity, all the things that the Green Party claim that they stand for, they voted against. And also they voted against essential infrastructure that are required for the smooth operating of our frontline services that are vital to the well-being of our communities. They voted that down too. So let's turn to something that a responsible, sensible council can do. which is to consider now the recommendations. Do you want me to read them out in full, Chair?
No, there's no need to read them
No,
all in
okay.
full. Thank you.
So I welcome the debate, I welcome the discussion, and the officers here who are leading this programme have heard all the comments and are taking that away. They've been extremely responsive to everything that's been said to them. The consultation processes have been exhaustive, and the community have actually come back and they've supported this scheme and made very positive and constructive suggestions to it. So we continue once we make a decision this evening. I hope that you can support the recommendations that I'm putting to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. I will therefore move to the recommendations. There are several of them, but they can be found on pages 9 to 10 of the agenda. Are the recommendations agreed by the Cabinet? Thank you very much. They are agreed. Okay, we'll do one more item before we take a break. So the next item is the strategic procurement pipeline for repairs, maintenance and compliance contracts. Councillor Jerry Bird, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just really like to say that today's papers set out a strategic procurement pipeline for repairs, maintenance, compliance contracts. It provides Cabinet with a clear forward view of up-and-coming procurements, ensuring that we can plan efficiently, secure value for money and maintain high standards of service for our tenants and residents. This approach also strengthens the transparency, accountability, giving us the opportunity to learn from the past and build more resilient customer-focused service. That's all I'm going to say tonight, Chair, because I think it's all in the papers, and we've got the recommendations on page 121, which is 1.1. One is to note the procurement pipeline for repairs, maintenance, compliance works as set out in the appendix to this report. And 2 is to delegate authority to the Director of City Services in consultation with relevant Cabinet members and Chief Officers to award contracts within this pipeline following completion of the appropriate procurement process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bird, and thank you for all your work in this area. I know it's been difficult at times, but actually we're making some really good progress. Our tenant satisfaction has risen to 73%, which is our highest in 4 years and above the national average. We've got rising satisfaction in our repairs, now at 78% satisfaction, with the time taken to complete, the satisfaction for the time taken to complete at 76% as well, so top quartile of council. So we've got a lot to be proud of in the work that we're doing. Thank you, Councillor Bird, and we look forward to seeing the work come through this procurement pipeline, which will help us to more effectively manage that really important work we do to support our tenants. Are there any questions or comments on this item? We'll first go to Councillor Porra, who is the scrutiny chair. I know that your committee looked at this.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Again, you have the draft minutes there, but broadly, I think we stress the need for very clear success criteria and measurable metrics. Obviously, if you look on page 135 to 137, it sort of says these will be set. So I think we'd be keen for Cabinet to make sure that there is a way of making sure those are appropriate and that they can be scrutinised, because some of those contracts are for up to 8 years, obviously, so we need to be sure that if there are problems, we have contract break clauses. And we also raised issues, things change in 8 years. We may need to procure different things within the same contract. So I think we did receive some assurances from officers at scrutiny that that was possible. But I would urge the Cabinet to take that quite seriously. We'd asked for the KPI models and parameters should be shared with scrutiny, because obviously that's important. There wasn't a huge amount of detail in that report. And obviously things like tenant satisfaction. We have the Housing Board, obviously not a decision maker. That comes to scrutiny, but we would welcome Cabinet making sure that obviously they have input. and particularly over the longer contracts, if stuff starts to stop working or tenant satisfaction decreases, I think we would urge Cabinet to think about ways that that can come back, because obviously at the moment this is sort of signing it off, and we'd be keen to make sure that was in place. And I think, yeah, that was the broad summary, and again you can see that on page 15 of the amended draft minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those helpful comments, and yes, we very much value the role of our tenants and our leaseholders. The reps that we have are incredibly knowledgeable and incredibly helpful to us in setting effective policy. Some of the things you mentioned there, I think, are absolutely in line with what we're trying to do here. So this is all about greater oversight of and more effective management of our contracts, and ultimately, therefore, to provide a better service to our tenants. But it's really helpful to have those comments. Thank you. Councillor Bird, did you want to add anything?
I can assure you that I will be checking up on everything. And also, yes, the Housing Advisory Board will see it as well. They need to be kept updated on everything. And yes, I assure you, I'll be looking out, all right? And it will come back to you anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. Any further comments? Councillor Wade.
Yes, thank you for this, Councillor Bird, and all your work. The report talks about strengthening, so I assume there have been some issues in the past that this report talks to move forward for our residents. Could you highlight some of those?
Thank you, Councillor Wade. We know that in some areas, past contracts have not delivered everything we expected. That experience has taught us valuable lessons about market engagement, contract management, and building in the right performance measures. This pipeline approach ensures we learn from those experiences, but stronger safeguards in place and keep improving for the future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bird. Are there any further comments or questions? Councillor Anna Smith.
Thank you, and Councillor Bird, thank you for all your work on this, and also to the officers. I think all of us have got great stories of where there's been fantastic repair work happening, and also some stories of where the systems could be improved, and that's what this is there to do. So I think what I'm interested in is really have there things that have gone wrong with these contracts in the past, and how would this help us address that?
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Bird, you'd like to respond?
By setting out a clear strategic plan, we can secure better value and more reliable contractors, which means improved quality and consistency of our service for our tenants. It also allows us to minimise disruption by coordinating works more efficiently and make sure compliance and safety remain to the heart of everything we do. Does that help, Councillor Smith?
Thanks, Jerry. Sorry, thank you, Councillor Bird.
Councillor Bick, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I think the elephant in the room here is that we all know that there have been some pretty big issues here, and even members of the Cabinet are alluding to that as well. If we can get those fixed, that's what our concern should be. And I think that, as the Scrutiny Committee said, part of the secret ought to be that we are able to measure performance better, and that we actually demand better on that basis. And so it was a bit disappointing that the report on which this is based, it talks about success criteria, but it doesn't give any measurement of it. And I think I hear from the answers earlier that that's going to come, but in a way, for members, dealing with casework. That is the most important bit of this. The name of the company that's going to deliver these to us is important maybe, but the most important thing is that they work to higher standards. And so I think it's, members like to see this kind of report, but they really, I think, want to see the actual measurements that people are going to be selected by, and more important still, managed by after contracts are awarded. And so just making the point that we really need to have that committed as something that will happen in the near future before decisions are taken on selecting suppliers or in determining how they're managed.
Thank you, Councillor Vick. As referenced in the papers, we will, of course, be putting in place performance measures, and I think it's important to note that actually on quite a few measures we're doing pretty well at the moment. Yes, we've referenced some challenges, and it is right to acknowledge that, because we do have tenants who would be sitting at home and thinking, well, actually, why are you saying this is great when actually my repair didn't work out quite right, or actually I had a problem. But on the whole, tenant satisfaction is going up. Satisfaction with repairs is going up. We've got 71% satisfaction that our homes are well maintained. Our voids turnaround is now at 15 days. We've managed to push that down significantly in recent times. So it feels like we're making progress, but we're putting in place the structure here that means that we will be able to monitor our performance and have far greater oversight of our contracts, and I hope that that will help us to continue to provide a good service to tenants. Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Councillor Vick. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've had problems. Every organisation has problems, but this is what we're trying to sort out, make sure we don't have these problems, and every tenant who has a repair needed, it's done within a few days. That's the most important thing, our tenants. So, like I said to Councillor Porrow, I will be keeping an eye, and hopefully you'll get a report back of how well we've done within 6 months. So I hope that clears it up, Councillor Vick. And also just to say that actually our voids have gone down even further. The temporary accommodation turnaround is at 11.5 days. The target was 15. General voids turnaround is performing at 12.5 days, target was 20. Operatives are completing their jobs, and 3.8 jobs per day versus 2.1 2 years ago. So it just shows you that the work is getting done and we're bringing down the voids, which is our most important thing as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bird, and clearly my voids figure was out of date and it's got even better, so that's fantastic. Thank you. Councillor Porrow, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just something I should have probably mentioned under the scrutiny. One thing we were keen to do, which I know Councillor Bird has committed to already, was to make sure things like the out of hours and the flexible working was part of those contracts. So obviously we're not paying extra for something in the future that I think we've agreed cross-party is a good way forward. So I think that's why the scrutiny committee were keen to kind of see some of these KPIs, as I'm sure Councillor Bird and the Cabinet are as well, just to make sure those things are in there up front, so we're getting the best value, not having to sort of pay for stuff separately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you want to respond briefly, Councillor Bird?
I was just going to say, I just said to Councillor Perry, I agree with what she said.
Thank you. Councillor Thornborough?
It's, Councillor Bird, it's great to hear about this, and I know from my work that when buildings are about 50 to 60 years old, that's when they have the most items of repair to be done. And it's great that we're investing in our council homes, because I think for the size of the district, we're probably one of the highest. We've got a very high number for the size of the district, and you're dealing with this, you know, and in a way that's really good going forward. And on top of that, you're doing the retrofitting projects for many homes, and that's going to be rolled out to make our homes more resilient. And on top of that, we're one of the biggest house builders in the city now. and providing really great affordable homes. So we're looking after our existing council homes and building more. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your contributions. Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add, I was pleased to see on 125 the post-award communication. I think Councillor Bick did refer to it, but it's really important, I think, to keep tenants updated and ward councillors so that we all understand what's happening. And I think that's to help to streamline that process. Communication is always good, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bird, would you like to sum up?
Well, just to say that I'm looking forward to this bit of work. Well, it's not a bit of work, it's going to be a lot of work. As long as my tenants are okay, safe and healthy in their homes, I think that's the main thing, and we just try and get better and better at what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bird. I'll move to the recommendations then. So number 1 is to note the procurement pipeline for repairs, maintenance and compliance works as set out in the appendix to this report. Number 2 is to delegate authority to the Director of City Services in consultation with relevant Cabinet members and Chief Officers to award contracts within this pipeline following completion of the appropriate procurement processes. Are those recommendations agreed by the Cabinet? They are agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take a short break now. Shall we say come back at 7 o'clock so that we've got time for people to eat dinner if they want to? All right, thank you. See you in 20 minutes.
We are now live, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome back, everybody. We're now on to item 7 of the agenda, which is Greater Cambridge Impact. This is a really exciting, innovative project that we're leading on to tackle deprivation and inequality in our city in a meaningful, long-lasting way, using some of the money from wealthier organisations and individuals in the city. We've got a really successful local economy, but we have to make sure that that works for everyone in our city. And so the work that we're doing here, we hope can go some way to rebalancing that and giving real opportunity to some of the people most in need in our city. Councillor Simon Smith, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. Our local economy is highly successful, but communities are experiencing increasing inequality, and while some prosper, others have limited life chances, and they rely on our safety net services, which include food banks, warm hubs, homelessness support services. So the challenge and the opportunity for the city to invest in services and interventions that address the causes of lifelong and intergenerational deprivation. A fairer, more inclusive community is a healthier, safer and more productive and happier community. So in this context, the Council has initiated Greater Cambridge Impact as a social investment vehicle through which the Council, the CPCA, national and local social investors, philanthropists, firms and the wider public and voluntary sectors will invest in social projects to bear down on our most pressing social problems. The Council invested £200,000 start-up funds, along with the commitment to invest a further £800,000, subject to progress with securing commitments from social investors. And I'm pleased to report that Greater Cambridge Impact is on track to meet the initial £6 million target in the next few weeks and its £10 million target in the new year. And in parallel with all of this, the Cambridge Pledge Foundation is also being set up to encourage local businesses and individuals to contribute. And this will help grow the amount that can be invested by Greater Cambridge Impact and, of course, the consequential benefits that will flow from their programmes. Now, at this point, the Greater Cambridge Impact investors are seeking assurance that all commitments are honoured, and it's at this point that we are asking for the Cabinet to approve or formalise the £800,000 equity investment in Greater Cambridge Impact, subject to the conditions that are set out in the report. And so the next priority for the organisation is to develop and deliver and measure the lasting impacts of these evidence-based service models, which the investors have found so compelling to want to support. And would like to acknowledge the work of the Chief Executive, who has a background in social investment, who's brought this initiative to the city, and the work of Gemma Little, who's led the project for the City Council, has been supported by Lynn Miles, but most of all to Sarah Allen, who is the Executive Director of Greater Cambridge Impact, who during the course of just under 2 years has managed to attract all the investment interest from a range of investors. And it's a truly remarkable achievement to raise so much money in such a short period of time, and a truly impressive figure that we're very privileged to have working for us in this city. I'm to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments or questions from Cabinet members? Councillor Thornborough.
What are the risks of this investment fund and how will they be managed?
Okay, so with any investment, there are risks, but strong strong safeguards have been put in place. So first of all, the payment is conditional. It's conditional on assurance from the Chief Executive and the Chief Financial Officer that all of the governance arrangements are in place and due diligence is completed. That if the £6 million target isn't met, I think it's unlikely at this point, but if it's not met, our funds will be returned. And no money will be spent until enough is raised. So it's not just kind of like a one-way passage of this money into the hands of another organisation. And following that, all of the investments will be subject to 2 business cases. They will be reviewed, they'll be selected, and be monitored by a board, which includes the council's representative, which happens to be the chief executive because of his particular, well, not just his seniority, but because of his expertise in this area, and other experts in social investment.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Smart.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, for the presentation. So does it have any investment proposal, the Greater Cambridge Impact Fund?
So having sort of gone through this fundraising stage, Greater Cambridge Impact is now going to focus on developing its investment pipeline. The first scheme will be to provide local high-quality care homes for looked-after children. Now, under the current system, many looked-after children are placed in private for-profit care homes, usually distant from their original homes. And this system basically fails children because we know that 33% of those who are care experienced become homeless. And they also make up 50% of the prison population. These are wasted lives, and it's very sad. Now, the proposal is to establish a multi-agency partnership across local government, the health system, children and voluntary sector organisations, schools, for support in what will be a not-for-profit care home that provides trauma-informed support, professional development for staff, and continuing professional and financial support for young people when they leave care. So in addition to this first programme, which should be about children in care experienced young people, the programme will focus on other disadvantaged young people, including those struggling at school and out of work, and families facing crises, poverty and homelessness. So that's the programme. The big prize from all of this, of course, is going to be the demonstration of the impact of these new approaches that can be replicated across public services. So we get better outcomes, not just for the individuals, but for society as a large. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Councillor Bick, did you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the last part of the subject that Councillor Smith was talking about, I wanted to comment that I think the potential target areas for the spending from the fund seem to be excellent. And my question about that side of it is, how will any ongoing revenue implications of those sort of projects be managed? Because they are obviously working within an area where public services are also doing some things. Maybe we would like that to be more. But it's really easy to see how a fund like this can support with an investment. But the history of these sort of things is that investments come along from whatever quarter and leave behind them a revenue obligation that has to be passed to someone else, and the reason that we have this fund is that someone else can't afford those things right now. So what is the philosophy for that aspect to be handled? Can I just come back with my other question after that one?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question, Councillor Bigg. Councillor Smith?
So I can only speak on the care home one because that's the one that's there's been discussed as in the first in the pipeline, and the county council is actually a very interested partner in this because it recognises, can we say, the less than attractive impacts, long-term impacts on looked after children, and is very interested in looking at this innovation. So effectively, it will become a provider that is a county council function, and the fund would put in the capital, which of course is either a construction of a new home or the acquisition of an existing suitable property. So that's how that particular model would work. But there are officers who have got wider experience in this than I have, who might be able to add to that if they so wish.
Gemma, would you like to come in?
Yes, just to say that all the investments will need to look at that. I mean, the investment committee will be looking at the business cases and the business models around it. And as Councillor Smith has said, the model it's a loan, potentially, it's a capital loan, so that they need to be looking at the income streams to repay those loans. And in the care home example, obviously some of those income streams come from commissioners who fund. And I think the projects are looking to provide better value, higher impact, by making better use of public money, which is currently going to private care home providers located miles away from the city. So that's very much the model. It's looking at business cases which are sustainable. Otherwise, the fund wouldn't be able to, the vehicle wouldn't be able to recover the loans after the investments have been made.
Thank you, Gemma. Councillor Bigg, did you have a further question?
Yeah, for different aspect of the same item though. On the funding side, we have seen reports on this project before under the old governance system, and authority was given to the I can't remember this the Executive Council for Finance or officers or a mixture of both to draw down the remaining 0.8 of a million as the City Council's contribution. But that was, at the time of that discussion, that was to be contingent upon the other contributions making it up to the first close of £6 million. So it's not actually up in lights here, but what this report is doing is saying, no, we'll do it a bit earlier than that. Because the situation, as I read from the report, is that we have, towards the 6 million, we have £1 million from the combined authority. I'm reading from the white pages. I'm definitely not going on the pink ones, don't worry. We have £1 million from the combined authority, and then from outside the public sector, we have a committed contribution towards the 6 million of 1.5 million from one investor, and that makes 2.5 million. Now, you're apparently talking to two other organisations, one of whom has committed another £1 million in principle, but not actually done yet, and the other, two other investors who are taking decisions in the autumn to commit a further 1.5 million. And that gets us up to the 5 million level, which on top of which the City Council's million would make 6 and take us to the close. So why is it that we haven't got actual decisions from these three remaining organisations? Because are they making a condition that the City Council needs to go first? Is that part of their decision process? Because then I kind of understand what's being proposed here. But if it isn't, why would we put our money in ahead of the time we said? And the background to my question is the same now as it was last time this was discussed. I think the public sector has to mean what it says here, because it's very sensible that we provide seed funding for this sort of project, but the point of it is the gaining of the private investment. And I'm just a bit worried that, having said one thing, we're kind of going early. So why?
Thank you, Councillor Bigg. I'd like to bring in, first of all, Robert Pollock, if you want to give a bit of a response, and then I'll go on to others as well.
No, thanks. It's a good question. I think the decision's been delegated, and I think the Executive Council has brought it to Cabinet so that there's a further additional public discussion. And you've noted in the confidential annex, there's a list of named organisations, and bringing it now is quite important because two of those organisations have been to their investment committee, and another one going in October. So that there is something, and I think these points were made last time we discussed this matter, about A, confidence, and B, now there's been these provisional decisions. They haven't been ratified by each organisation's own governance processes. I think the City Council going through and making a public declaration prior to those organisations sends a very positive message. In terms of the release of funds, the vehicle is not yet established, so until the structure is in place, we won't be writing a cheque and giving it to anyone. But I think the public decision of the Cabinet would be a very positive demonstration of intent, Councillor Bacon, in advance of two quite important investment committees over the next 4 weeks.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, would you like to come in?
It wasn't particularly in response to Councillor Bick's comment.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, hang on.
Sorry, I meant Councillor Simon
wrong one.
Smith, and then I will come to you later. Sorry, my fault.
Yeah, so the point is there's no payment is made until the formal Greater Cambridge Impact is actually established as a formal entity, and that's the point at that will only happen once all of the parties have made that formal commitment, and then the parties will then simultaneously confirm their commitment once the governance arrangements are put in place. So it's mutuality, it's all about trust, and each organisation considers it's leveraging other investment again on the back of its investment, and that basically is how this funding operation works. It's the same with all partnership funding arrangements like this. It's normal, it's standard, and what we need to do now is just to make this as a high-level decision within the council that we're committed and we'll put the money in once everybody else is ready to do the same thing. So I hope that allays your concerns, but quite right, you're quite right, concerns, but that we're not actually putting ourselves in that position that you were suggesting we might be.
Thank you. That's the answer I hoped for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now come to Councillor Anna Smith.
Too many Smiths. I just wanted to say what a great project I think this is. It's something that we started talking about when I was leader. I've had the pleasure of being on the Combined Authority Investment Committee when it went through there. It's fabulous to be part of Cabinet to help make this decision too. I just think it's so important, and it's all the things that so many of us say about being in a city that is economically successful, that we all need to be part of the solutions to the great wealth divide in our city and across our region. And this is part of that. I think it's such a fantastic idea. and the officers who have worked with us on this have been brilliant in helping steer this. So thank you to them, and I will certainly be supporting this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Anna Smith. Councillor Simon Smith, any final comments before we move to the vote?
Well, I think, the discussion has actually summed up that this is an incredibly exciting development for the public sector, because just generally the public sector deals with the symptoms of deprivation and inequality, and it never gets round to really seriously investing in the long term in preventing inequality. We saw from Sure Start that was an attempt to do that, and we're now seeing the positive impacts that that's having on the children who participated in Sure Start, and it's something that this programme of schemes will draw national attention to. There are better solutions, there are better ways to spend public money than the way we're doing it at the moment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Simon Smith. I'll therefore move to the recommendation. The recommendation is to approve the drawdown of the Council's 0.8 million and to approve the formalisation of its investment in Greater Cambridge Impact, following consultation with the Overview and Scrutiny Chairs and Vice Chairs, and reassurance from the Chief Executive and Chief Financial Officer that governance arrangements are in place and due diligence is completed. Just as a reminder for those who are watching, in terms of the voting, you probably can't see the people who are voting, but people in the room will be putting their hands up. Those who are online are not able to participate in the vote, but they nevertheless can participate in the discussion. So is this recommendation agreed by the Cabinet? Thank you very much. That is agreed. Okay, item 8, development of the climate change strategy 2026 to 2031. Councillor Rosie Moore, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you very much. This council declared a climate emergency in 2019, and we stand by that declaration. Climate change is real, it's happening around the world, including here in Cambridge. The climate crisis is a human health crisis. There are an estimated 16,500 additional deaths just in Europe this summer. Just this summer, just in Europe, as a result of the heat waves that we've seen. So cutting our emissions and achieving net zero is the most important thing we can do for our future selves, our children, and for all people all over the world. Plus, of course, all other living things all over the world. So for that reason, despite uncertainty with local government reorganisation, I'm proposing to update our own climate change strategy, but align it with South Cambs as they update theirs so that they run alongside each other. There are two aspects to our climate change strategy: the Council's own management for reducing our own carbon emissions from our operations and buildings, and a plan for reducing the emissions from the city as a whole. A new aspect of this strategy is to create an action plan with organisations and partners across the city, so that rather than just the council's action plan for the city, it's a collaborative approach, a collaborative action plan for the city. We'll be building on previous strategies, adding two more actions which align with South Cambs. That's looking at supply chains and finance, and then community support and behaviour change, ensuring a just transition. So, as I already said, we're witnessing climate change here in Cambridge, and so adaptation to the climate change we're already facing will be a thread running through each of the objectives and areas of action. The recommendation here is to go out to public consultation alongside South Cambs. Obviously, a lot of our residents, they might work in South Cambs, and South Cambs residents might live here. So residents will be able to pick which strategy they engage in. However, they will also have the opportunity to respond to both where appropriate. So just to finish, I'd like to thank Gemma and the team for all of the very hard work on this report and engagement plan. Plus, crucially, all of their work still ongoing on the current strategy. And our carbon management plan has just come out. So our emissions last year were 8% lower than in the previous year. So we've been making good progress, but we've still got a lot to do. And I would hope that all councillors would share the engagement with their residents, with any residents groups, organisations that are a part of, because it's really important, as in this engagement, that we don't just reach those residents that are already concerned about climate change and doing what they can, but to reach all residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Moore. Are there any comments or questions on this item? I'll go first to Karen Young, the relevant scrutiny chair.
Just to say that the Scrutiny Committee has not looked at this item, but we do intend to do so before it comes back to you all after the consultation. So nothing to say at the moment on this or the next item.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thornborough.
This is really exciting. I remember when you brought it to the committee. It was really exciting when it was passed. And we got going on this, and I think the work that the council's been doing, but with partners, has been really, really substantial. So I think it's great, and thank you for all your work on that. I know that in our emerging local plan, we're very ambitious for future developments to be as energy efficient as possible, and that will mean reduced bills for homes and businesses. And the work that's been going on here is investing in the future for the future people who are going to be running the council, living in the council homes, and passing the information on will help the colleges and the university. And it's great to see the city leading on so many things, but on this. So, and also, I think from a lot of the work that's been done, we know that the younger this is one of the top worries about the younger generation, and it'd be great if we could reach out and enable them to be involved in the consultation, because we know from other sources that it keeps coming back that this is a concern. So if they know about this, it'll help alleviate stress, I think. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thornborough. Councillor Nesta.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to highlight as well with what Councillor Thornborough had said, that the new bit about this new strategy is to focus on supply chain and finance as well, which is very welcoming. Many times sort of we don't focus on this and we just leave things kind of just to stay sort of like separate. And I also welcome the collaborative approach that this new strategy has. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to come afterwards. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nesta. Councillor Moore, did you want to respond to that, or no? Okay, Councillor Bick, would you like to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is obviously very positive. I had a really practical question to ask about it. The consultation about this, as Councillor Moore said, is really important. We've got another item later on this agenda where you're talking about another consultation about the urban forest, and we know that there will be a big consultation about the draft local plan also coming up. And although those things all do fit together, I'm trusting, there is a real danger here that we don't get the response to any one of them that we might hope for, because there are just so many consultations. And I just wonder whether the people originating these consultations could kind of get together and see if they can even piggyback on what each other are doing to some degree to get the maximum participation possible, because there is such a thing as consultation fatigue. And I think we rely on people coming to us with challenge and ideas and so on, and it would be horrible to miss out simply because people thought they've just consulted too much.
Thank you, Councillor Bick. That's a helpful suggestion. And yes, consultations can not always be people's favourite thing to fill out. And it's interesting that you mentioned people coming to us, but actually, as part of this engagement exercise and those other engagement exercises, it's important that we go out to ask people's opinions as well, because inevitably, if we wait for people to come to us, then we're already seeing a self-selected sample of people, which may not be fully representative. But we'll go to Councillor Moore for any further comments.
Thank you. So Gemma might want to come in around the consultation, but just to say, yes, absolutely, there's a fine balance. You don't want too long a consultation and then people don't finish it, but we absolutely are. That's why we're aligning with South Cambs. We're working alongside the tree strategy, but it is a vitally important consultation, and we have got lots of plans on how to reach some of those harder to reach groups, including young people. There was discussion about going out to schools. As I say, Gemma might have more to say. And then on the supply chain, yes, absolutely. And also what I didn't say was a new focus on our Scope 3 emissions. So there really is such a lot in our current climate change strategy. And obviously this one is more ambitious, trying to be more collaborative with organisations across the city. So that's why it is important to do it on its own, but to align with those other consultations and ultimately to align with those strategies, the local plan and the climate change strategy and the urban forest all need to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Gemma, would you like to come in?
Thank you. Yes, no, just to add to that, really, we've got quite a detailed engagement plan, thinking about how we engage with young people through schools, through clubs, scout organisations, how we engage with students at our universities. And I think the thing to say as well is, beyond the consultation, I think it's the engagement afterwards as well, in terms of engaging the whole city in addressing climate change and support increasing biodiversity and nature. So I think we see this as continuing the conversation with residents, and we will of course share all the results with colleagues who are working on the local plan and other teams within the council.
And the consultation is in the papers for this. And just to highlight that it isn't an engagement, we're doing what do you think about that, yes or no? It's also about trying to understand what residents want or need from us to be able to increase their actions to reduce their carbon footprint, or what support they want around adaptation. So it's a slightly different sort of engagement, but it's really important. And as you said, the more people that we get to respond, the better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Simon Smith.
Well, I think this report highlights who the true environmentalists are on this council, and it's Labour. And it's been a remarkable record, and you've seen that's evidence from the statistics. Pioneered this, and I'm only seeing that this is awareness of climate change and damage to biodiversity is something that we address in practically as we can in everything we do. And I'm going to, Councillor Bick, if you can forgive me, to actually repeat something that you wrote about in the paper, about the Green Party. And You said they oppose the transmission of renewable energy. They oppose sustainable transport infrastructure. They oppose development in sustainable locations. They oppose regeneration of council houses to be replaced with low energy, zero carbon homes. And they oppose a retrofit of the Guildhall and the Corn Exchange. They're not genuine environmentalists at all, but this council is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Bix now raised his hand. Did you, I think you've already been quoted adequately there, but did you want to respond at all? Not respond, but did you put your hand up? Do you have a question?
Put my hand up because, yes, I think they did print those comments from me in the paper, but it was what you said before that I just needed to correct the record a little bit. The climate change strategy of this council was first created in 2007 or 2008, I believe, and it has been supported by both main parties on the council ever since. And I think it's a pity that you're using a cabinet meeting to make partisan points in relation to people who don't have the equal say that members of the cabinet have. I think it's a bit regrettable, even though you're repeating my comments in the process.
Thank you, Councillor Bick. I think we will move on. We all agree that the climate crisis is real and incredibly pressing, and that we need a citywide approach to tackling this issue, both mitigating it and adapting to its effects. So, Councillor Moore, I'll turn to you for any final comments before we move to the vote.
Just very quickly, the first Cambridge Climate Change Charter was in 2007. It's all in this excellent report. And the first climate change strategy was 2008. So the good news is that must mean we all support progressing to the next stage and working even harder on our next carbon emission reduction projects. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Moore. Okay, we will move to the recommendation, which is to provide approval to progress to public engagement to help inform the development of the new climate change strategy 2026 to 2031. Item 2 is to delegate finalisation of engagement documents and plans in appendices A, B and C to the Director of Economy and Place. Do we approve those recommendations? Thank you very much. That's approved. Okay, we're fairly short on time. We've got 20 minutes until we'll have to vote to extend the meeting for a further half hour, so we'll try to move through quickly. We're now on to the Urban Forest Strategy 2026 to 2036. Councillor Martin Smart, would you like to introduce this?
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and be brief. So this is the Urban Forest Strategy. So just to be clear, an urban forest is all the trees in a city, to be clear, really. It's another way of referring to a tree strategy, which is what we had before. So I'll just briefly introduce it, Chair. So the strategy recognises that Cambridge's trees are not just landscape features, they are critical infrastructure. They cool our neighbourhoods, improve air quality, support biodiversity and provide a sense of place and well-being. The document before you sets out a clear vision to protect, expand and manage Cambridge's tree canopy, guided by principles of equity, need and environmental value. It makes the case for action. Climate change, urban growth, pests and diseases all threaten our urban forest, and sets out how we will respond. It's structured around 5 principles: awareness and action, climate resilience, intergenerational equity, public engagement, environmental justice. The strategy then translates these 8 aims from increasing canopy cover and improving the condition of existing trees to embedding trees in planning policy, supporting biodiversity and ensuring equitable access across all communities. Delivery will be through 4 approaches: manage more, protect more, plant more and engage more, each supported by policies, actions and monitoring. A key commitment is to raise Cambridge's canopy cover towards a 20% target by 2050, with a strong focus on communities most currently most exposed to heat and poor air quality. This is both an environmental and an equity strategy. It recognises that canopy is unevenly distributed across the city and makes environmental justice central to future planting and protection. Tonight I ask Cabinet to endorse this draft so that it can move to consultation, ensuring residents, partners and stakeholders can shape the final version. It is a long-term plan, but one that requires us to act now, so that trees we plant now and protect today become the living legacy of a greener, fairer Cambridge tomorrow. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smart. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Councillor Nestor.
Thank you, Chair. And if you can please indulge me for just 2 minutes. I really welcome this urban forest strategy, as it is an important step in building a fair, healthier and greener Cambridge. Urban forests are not just about planting trees, they're about resilience, equity and opportunity, creating cleaner air, cooler streets and spaces that support well-being across our communities. We have to remember that our local decisions also carry a global responsibility. The Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, agreed at COP15 in 2022, makes this very clear. There are a series of targets, but the targets that are more resonant are Target 12 and Target 2. Target 12 commits us to significantly increase the area quality and equitable access to green and blue spaces in urban areas, ensuring biodiversity, inclusive planning, ecological connectivity, and better human health. And Target 2 requires the restoration of at least 30% of degraded ecosystem by 2030. Urban forests are a practical way to deliver these commitments here in Cambridge. They're also aligned with the Paris Agreement, where nature-based solutions play a key role in tackling the climate emergency and with the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 11 on sustainable cities, Goal 13 on climate action, and Goal 15 on life on land. But this is not just an environmental policy, it is also a cultural and an economic one. Our urban forests can be a source of pride, reflecting our city's identity and heritage, while also supporting the growth of green skills and jobs. And this directly links to my portfolio, ensuring that transition to a greener Cambridge is also an inclusive one, where our communities and young people benefit from opportunities in the green economy. So by aligning our urban forest strategy with these international frameworks, Cambridge can really demonstrate how a historic and innovative city can connect local action with global commitments. And in doing so, we help to secure a sustainable and just future for both our people and nature. And I think we should be very proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nestor. Councillor Wade?
Well, thank you, Chair, but I think Councillor Nestor's expanded on the question that I was going to ask Councillor Smart, which was, could he expand a bit more and explain to residents why we needed to renew this strategy? But Councillor Smart, there might be something else you wanted to add. Thank you.
Councillor Smart?
No, I can answer that question, and thank you to Councillor Nestor for giving us a global context. I think that's very useful. So the strategy updates and strengthens the progress made under the 2016 tree strategy, using evidence and broader aims to protect and grow the city's trees for the future. So there's a 3-point response I could give. So 1, the 2016 strategy set a clear framework and a long-term canopy target of 19% by 2050. The new strategy builds on that foundation and updates it for today's climate, biodiversity and growth pressures. 2, it makes use of the latest mapping and iTree data so that we can plan more fairly across the city, improving access to trees for all communities while also supporting nature. 3, the Council will continue to lead by managing its own trees well, while also encouraging residents, landowners and partners to play their part in caring for the wider 75% of the city's canopy. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Councillor Todd Jones?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just a very quick question, really, which is, can Councillor Smart say a little bit more about the thinking behind the aspiration for 20% cover by 2030? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Todd Jones. Councillor Smart?
Yep. So, firstly, we are raising the previous goal to 20% canopy cover by 2050 to match good practice and show ambition for the long term. So, again, a 3-point response I could give really to sort of break that up. So, one, the 2016 strategy aimed for 19% by 2050. This new strategy lifts that to 20%, showing we want to go further while keeping the target realistic for Cambridge. Two, and this is critical really in that figure, research by the Forest Research Organisation suggests 20% is the target level for canopy cover in towns and cities should aim for. Setting this target keeps Cambridge in line with that benchmark, and that's obviously where we want to be. Three, because trees take decades to grow, 2050 is the right timescale for new planting to mature and deliver the shade, cooling, carbon storage and biodiversity benefits the city needs.
Thank you. Were any of the Liberal Democrat councillors wanting to? Councillor Porrer, would you like to comment?
Thank you. I'm sure Councillor Smart is already on this, but I'm really hoping we're liaising very closely with the new emerging local plan, particularly around trees, and particularly around, I know the wording in here is on the balance of probabilities for things like subsidence, because as I'm sure most of Cabinet are aware, that has been quite a challenging issue, particularly with the fees and costs. So I hope I'm speaking in a positive way that we all agree that that does need to be something we tie in very closely with the new emerging local plan and continue to maintain pressure for a national change in policy on that, because that does pose, I think, a risk to some trees, unfortunately, in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Porrer. Councillor Smart, would you like to respond?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Porrer. Yes, I'm very much aware of that, sitting on planning committee like you, and I'm very much aware, although you never said it, that often in planning applications, trees can be threatened or even lost or illegally chopped down and so on. So we need to all work hard to keep those trees in the city and plant new trees where we can, although of course, trees and canopy cover are not quite the same thing. Canopy cover is what we're aiming for here. A new sapling will not give us much canopy cover for many, many years, so it's the canopy cover we want. But also just to say that this item is to ask for Cabinet's approval to go to consultation, and the first part of that consultation process will be in-house and with other stakeholders. That'll be before Christmas. And that's where planning can have their say and, you know, have an effect on this paper, on this strategy. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smart. Councillor Thornborough?
Yes, I think the shared planning officers are very aware of this paper and the consultation coming through. And I know in the last local plan consultation, there was a draft policy called the canopy cover policy. So we're going to be getting the new draft policies for the emerging local plan over the next few weeks, and hopefully they'll be reinforcing the work that you're doing here. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thornborough. Are there any final comments from you, Councillor Smart, or would you like to go to the vote?
Be very brief. I know time's getting on. I'll just say thank you to Councillor Thornborough for that point. And of course, Councillor Thornborough was the executive when we had the canopy project in Cambridge, which introduced a target of 2,000 trees across the city, although I think in fact it delivered in the end about 3,500 in total. So, you know, we did well, or officers, Councillor Thornborough, everyone concerned did really well in that, and I hope to keep that going. So thank you very much. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to say except to reiterate what I said earlier. The global context is really important here. We need to play our part in that. We're a small city, but nevertheless, every part of the movement towards tackling climate change is important. It doesn't matter how small or big, it's all important, and we need to do our bit.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smart. Okay, we'll move to the recommendations. So number one, approve the progression to consultation on the new Cambridge City Council Urban Forest Strategy 2026 to 2036. Two, to note that consultation will take place in 2 stages, an internal consultation with service delivery partners, followed by a public consultation alongside the biodiversity strategy review, and 3, to delegate finalisation of consultation documents and proposals to the Director of City Services. Do we agree the recommendations? Thank you very much. That's agreed. Okay, now on to item 10, establishment of new loan facilities for Cambridge Investment Partnership. Councillor Simon Smith, would you like to introduce this?
Much, Chair. So Cambridge Investment Partnership LLP is a joint venture between two 50% partners, the City Council and Hill, an independent house builder. So through KIP, the Council is progressing one of the most ambitious council house building programmes of any district council in England. And our purposes are to provide safe, warm, low energy and affordable homes for those who cannot afford them to buy and rent in the open market. The programme comprises development on green and brownfield sites and redevelopment of existing end-of-life council homes. To power the programme, the Council has previously advanced land acquisition, development and equity loans to KIP. And this proposal this evening is to approve 18.5 million of 3 new development loan facilities and 4.667 million in equity loans to KIP towards the redevelopment of 133 new council homes and 171 market homes. These are at Newbury Farm, ATS Merkett site in Histon Road and Fanshawe Road. KIP could borrow from the market, but this would be costly due to banking bureaucracy and less agility than the City Council can provide them. And it will also provide the Council with a higher rate of return on deposits than available elsewhere in the lending market. And when required, the Council could borrow at around 3.5% less than the interest rate on the development loans. Now, that higher interest rate, of course, reflects risk, and we're proposing risk mitigation measures as follows. So the development land facilities, loan facilities, will only be used for the purposes of delivering the houses on the 3 sites, drawn down in step with the value of the completed works, secured by way of a charge over all KIP assets, which is in effect the value of all the work in progress on all KIP sites. And the equity loans for both Council and Hill will be drawn down on a 50-50 basis, and they will be the subject of repayment as sales on the market housing progress. The Council and Hill have equal representation on the board and equal decision-making powers. External advice has confirmed the proposal is compliant with the Subsidy Control Act. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Councillor Thornborough?
I think this sounds like a win-win situation, but it means that we continue to be one of the largest house builders in the city, helping to deal with the housing crisis we've got here, and I'm very pleased to say I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, in that case, we will move to the vote. We have a number of recommendations on page 253 of the agenda, which are to be put forward to full council. Do we agree the recommendations? Thank you very much. That's passed. Okay, we have 2 more items remaining, both of which are to note. We're on to item 11 now, which is the Q1 Finance Monitoring Report. Councillor Simon Smith, could you introduce this report?
Thank you, Chair. So this quarterly report includes details of the performance against prudential indicators, and it is in line with best practice under SIPFA Financial Management Code and the Treasury Management Code of Practice. The rationale is to enable the leadership team and cabinet to address income shortfalls and overspends in a timely manner. And this report sets out management responses to the identified budget variances, which will support the Council in fulfilling its duties to provide best value and balance the budget. The General Fund revenue budget is broadly on track due to strong income performance with a forecast overspend of only £29,000. And the General Fund capital budget has a forecast underspend of 20 million, of which 16.8 million is attributable to the Park Street outturn, and the pre-arranged borrowing for Park Street will be reallocated towards the Civic Quarter funding requirement, which will substantially reduce the borrowing costs against that scheme. General Fund savings target of 8.249 million is forecast to be exceeded at 9.9, and that sum, that target sum includes a one-off interest income of 3 million. So the real number is around the 5 million that we addressed during the budget setting process earlier this year. The General Fund is the subject of overspend and income shortfalls that are balanced by higher than forecast income, and those are set out in the report. And the main conclusion to draw from all of this is that on the Key 1 performance, it looks as if the Council will not need to make any difficult budgetary decisions for the financial year 2026-2027. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. I should just note before we go on to this item and any further discussion that we've only got 2 minutes before we officially come to the end of the 3 hours of the meeting. However, we can vote to extend the meeting by up to half an hour. So I propose that we take that vote now. We only have this item and the next fairly, hopefully, short item to note. Do we approve to extend for up to half an hour? Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on this item? No? Okay, thank you very much. All right, we will move to the recommendations. These are contained within the report on page 261. Do we agree to the recommendations? Which is simply to note. Thank you very much. The next item, item 12, is also to note. It's the annual Treasury Management Outturn Report for 2024-25. Councillor Simon Smith, would you introduce this one as well?
Thank you very much, Chair. So this report is the last of the 3 Treasury Management reports for the 2024-25 financial year. And these reports are required to comply, again, with CIPFA Treasury Management in Public Service Code of Practice and the CIPFA Prudential Code for Capital Finance in Local Authorities 2021. So these reports are about compliance, and this is what a responsible council does. So the reporting cycle starts before the financial year with the annual. It starts with the financial year with the strategy, and it proceeds to the mid-year Treasury update report and ends with this report, the annual review, following the end of the financial year. And this review is also required, the annual review is also required under the Local Government Act 2003 to produce an annual Treasury report reviewing Treasury management activities and actual prudential and Treasury indicators. And this report confirms that the Council operated within the authorised and the operational borrowing limits contained within the prudential indicators set out in the Council's Treasury Management Strategy and Statement. So the highlights from this then are £115 million of capital expenditure in 24-25, of which 57.9 million was under the General Fund and 57.2 million under the Housing Revenue Account. There was a decrease in deposit balances to 46 million due to use of cash balances, and interest receipts of 4.7 million were 1.1 million more than budgeted. So the General Fund financing included 30 million of a 85 million pre-arranged annuity loan to fund Park Street development. And the development, after allowing for borrowing costs, is already contributing £1.4 million per annum towards vital frontline services. And 24 million from internal borrowing to mostly fund land acquisition loans to KIP, which will be repaid on completion of the relevant housing schemes, which obviously contribute towards delivering desperately needed affordable homes. So both investments underline the council's prudent and purposeful management of its resources, which government, business ratepayers, council taxpayers can trust. So the recommendation, Chair, will go to that if there are no questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions on this? No? Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Smith. And we will move to the recommendation, which is simply to note this item. We recommend the report to full council, which includes the council's actual prudential and treasury indicators for 2024 to 2025. Are we agreed to note this item? Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the meeting then. Thank you very much, everyone, for a good meeting and for all the good work you're doing for this council.